It's a new day working in the shop, and today we're going to get started on a bunch of stuff with this Nissan. The Jimmy sold like super quick. It was gone in about 15 hours after I posted it. Super happy about that. And now it's time to get this thing ready to do the same. So we got to build bumpers front and rear, and we're going to build these totally from scratch. No pre-built templates, no pre-cut welded together. I just have a bunch of steel plates, and I'll show you that in a little bit. And we're just going to make something up, and then I'm going to take the factory brush guard and cut it apart and integrate it into the bumper, so that'll look pretty nice, I think. And then I got to do one on the rear because the rear also doesn't have a bumper. I've got new wheels coming for it, and I already have tires that came off of something else. The only reason I can't put the tires onto these wheels is because the tires are for 16s and these are 15s, and these tires are junk. I've got them aired down because I was running through the ditches a little while ago. Before we start getting into the heavy fab work and stuff, this is what we're going to address right here. It's really annoying to have to go through the back to pop this door to get in every time you want to get in and out of this thing. Alright, so as you can see, getting the door handle on was nice and successful, and look at this. A day later, it still works. What a miracle. So today we're going to be moving on to the bumpers. I'll show you what we're working with. Oh, it's behind a whole bunch of junk. I'm starting to accumulate all my friends' stuff around here. Anyways, I got a ton of angle iron and stuff, which I don't think I'm going to use any of. But I do have just a boatload of 3/16 plates. There's a bunch of it here, and you can see they go all the way. There's a bunch of them over there. There's a bunch of them over here. I got a ton of those, and I've got them at scrap value, so it's super cheap. So it's priced by the pound. So I'm going to be cutting up a bunch of them to be making the bumpers. Here's kind of the shape I'm thinking. So I've got it coming out flat 90 degrees and then down 90 degrees and then a kickback that's going to meet up with this piece here. I'm not going to touch this too much. It's kind of just barely sitting here. Right now it's just sitting on top of the toe point and the mounting bracket for the brush guard, but this piece isn't super structural or anything. But it'll just kind of be a nice transition if something were to hit this, kind of send it down instead of if I brought it straight across right here to match up over the top of this, then this would be the spot you hit, which is just this really thin metal. So that's the shape I'm thinking. I'm gonna have to figure out some sort of mounts here. I'll figure out later. Definitely want this to be a bolt-on, not a weld-on bumper. I want it to be removable. So some sort of bolts here, and then some sort of reinforcement for these brackets, I think, because it's just the one side that's actually tied in, not this other side. So I might gusset it or something in there. We'll see. But I need to make this nice and strong for recovery. And then obviously this isn't full width, but I think this is a pretty good starting point. And it's got enough room for me to put a little hoop over the grill, like a little bull bar type of deal. The more I think about it, the more I don't want to use this and can sell that to somebody else that has one. And then I'm thinking for the sides here, and you can see it doesn't stick off horribly far. And that way we can put lights and stuff on here. It won't look like it's jutted out too far, but I'm thinking maybe have this kick back towards the headlight a little bit and then tuck right up into this corner. Because I don't think I want to make it full length like this all the way down and in. So kind of debating that back and forth right there. I might shorten this just like an inch or so, maybe a half an inch. But let me go grab a piece of pipe and we'll see how that lines up. Alright, I grabbed this really small piece of pipe so that this whole contraption doesn't just fall down. And you can see I've got a little room to work with. There's some gap on either side of the pipe, so I can suck that in just a little bit. So I can have the pipe sit like almost touching the bumper like that, or almost touching the grill like that. So I can shorten it about this much, which will be really nice. That's about 3/4 of an inch I can probably work with reasonably. I think that's what we're gonna do, and so I'm gonna start cutting and welding some stuff together. The hardest part of this whole process is gonna be figuring out how to bolt it up in a way that's accessible, so that this isn't just gone forever. I'm thinking that there's gonna have to be some sort of hole underneath of it, like just a little slit that's about this long right here, so you can get wrenches and tools up into this space, and that's a reasonable amount of room to be able to reach up in underneath. So I think I'll just make it how I'm making it and then cut that section out, and then I'll make a bracket that bolts to this whole plate and then reinforces to the top and then reinforces forwards, and that part that reinforces forward is also going to be our toe point, so that the toe point comes all the way back to this and through the bumper, which will be really good. And then a little kick down to this bottom plate, so it'll help strengthen it up. And then we're gonna have to add some gussets to the bumper. We can't just leave it open all the way through like this, because that'll be a recipe for bending really easily. So we'll add a couple of gussets in here to kind of tie everything in. So for now, I'm gonna go start cutting some metal and tacking it together and see what we can't figure out. I think it needs to be cut kind of at an angle this way as it rounds that corner to go back and meet that body line. The only problem with that is I can't come too high up, otherwise we're gonna miss the body line right here. So we gotta tuck it into there and then kind of come up at an angle. That might get complicated. We might do it anyways. But at least over the top, you can see how it kind of opens up, because this isn't perfectly straight, like we kind of determined. And this is sitting kind of wonky, so it's not going to be actually that far. But we might come to here and then kick it in a little bit, just to give it some sort of accent. So it's not just flat across. Obviously, it's not going to look great right off the bat, but it's more bumper than we've had for a long time, which is nice. So I'm just going to keep chugging along on this thing. This thing is not going to get done all today, but if I can keep chugging along after dinner here in a little bit, see if I can't get the kick down piece for underneath, which I might do that after the brackets. Figuring out the brackets might be the next step, so I can start building off of that. So far, we have a plain Jane bumper. Alright, so I've done some more looking around, and it looks like a lot of people that really actually wheel these things do a competition cut right here on the corner. So they'll take this line under the lights right here and go straight back and cut it right here, and then basically remove all of this metal right here in the corner, which I think is a really great idea. it just drastically improves the approach angle to the tire. Obviously, it doesn't fix all this in the middle, but to the tire right here, it drastically improves your approach angle. And then my bumper, instead of just being stupid and flat across the front, I can angle from here down probably to that frame bracket type of a deal, and then across, and then kick it up at the other end. But then I can also have a little corner section right here and kick it back and protect all the body right here. And I think that's actually going to be a really, really good idea. The more I think about it, the more I like it. This is already just a big improvement. I mean, look at that approach angle difference if I were to hit something not right here in the middle. Obviously, there's nothing I can do about this. Where the condenser is supposed to be is protected by that, but more importantly, you see the radiator in there. We need to protect that for sure. So this tab's gonna go away, and it's bent super bad anyways. It's supposed to be straight like this one. And that tab's gonna go away. That little hook's gonna go away. I honestly did not even realize that that was hooked like that. I thought it was connected at both ends because it's been caked in all that mud that's sitting under there now that I kicked away. But trimming this, I'm actually pretty happy with. That way I'm going to be able to actually put some flare into my bumper. I can kick it up a little bit, not all the way to the corner. I think that'll look pretty dumb. That's an aggressive angle. But kick it up to maybe halfway up and then kick it back towards the tire a little bit and protect my broken taillight or turn signal and my other broken turn signal. So I'm going to finish getting this cut out, and then we'll get back to work on the structure of the bumper and start getting that cut out right here. We got our bumper build interrupted by the delivery of the new wheels, and I gotta say, I am pretty happy with the stance that this thing has on it. I am not confident in the ability to turn much anymore. It's got some room. Definitely driven worse. The Beerbulance was way worse than that. When I put the Beerbulance on the ground the first time with the 35s on it with no lift, I think these were touching. So I've driven worse, but these are 265 75 16s. It's like a 31.7 by 10.4, something like that, on some 16 by 8 Steelies. I can't believe how wide they stick out in the front. I mean, that's pretty crazy. It's got a pretty mean stance. I'm really happy with the way this turned out. But I've got kind of my bumper mocked up, and I got those sections cut out. I gotta continue building around the side of this, but I think first I'm gonna get the brackets mocked up so I can get the bumper kind of positioned where it's gonna be and tack it in. That way I can look forward to the precise alignment coming back off of this. Because this piece needs to come directly right there to the edge of the fender cut. So I'm not gonna build that till the bumper is kind of in its home. All right, it's been a little while since I've done an overview of where we're at. This thing's coming along pretty good. I'm starting to like the way it's shaping up. So I've got these angles made so where it kicks back towards the corners. I've got some holes cut out, and they look really wonky right now because I still need to grind the inside of them a little bit because they're a little bit wavy, and you can see right there, like my Sharpie mark looks like I cut it really far. I got Sharpie marks over there too, but like I say, if you come up close, you can see that's just a Sharpie mark. So I gotta clean these up a little bit more, and these will look pretty good. And I'm really thinking I might, just for it to be really nice and square, I think I'm gonna 3D print some bezels that fit right there. I think that'll look really nice. It'll be really similar to the bumper I have on Meatball that way too, but you can see it tucks up pretty good. This isn't a winch bumper. I really went back and forth because I have a winch right there, but I don't want to put a winch on this thing just to get rid of it. So I left it alone as a non-winch bumper. If I did a winch bumper, I would have just made this come out a little bit more and then cut back part of the core support and get it tucked as close to that radiator as I possibly could and really try to make it as slim mount as possible. But anyways, I've also got a skid plate made up underneath, and it actually bolts. They're just, everything's hand tight right now, like I said. So like these are just sitting in here. They're not mounted up. Same with that one, they're just sitting in there. But I even got a bolt hole to line up on the bottom there next to the factory recovery points in the frame. I'm pretty excited about that. Don't worry about this weld right here. That was me accidentally clicking the trigger when I was moving the torch. So I gotta grind that off and redo that. But otherwise, the little 110 is doing pretty good. I'm getting really good penetration. And you can see on the backside where I welded the brackets in. I still gotta finish weld a couple more things. I wasn't able to get to this top piece because of the piece right here, but I was able to weld it across the top on the backside. So it's pretty well tied in. And then like I said, that piece under there. I'm thinking I might not put recovery points on the front of this just because the hooks and things that I have here, I don't love the look of on the front of this. I know that's kind of stupid to have an off-road bumper and no recovery points, especially because those ones are so way low under there, but I'd rather have no recovery points on the front, or no aftermarket ones anyways, on the front, than put something in that's either going to look really goofy or something that's not going to perform to my standards. So I got to reevaluate that. I'm not in love with the hook idea I talked about. The further I get into this build, that's not going to fit. See, I don't know if I want that just sticking out like that. So I got some thinking to do on that front. I'll put this back over here. Alright, I think the bumper's ready to go on, so we're going to put these lights on. I got the turn signal harnesses wired up, and if you look at them, you can see I have a female end on the ground and a male end on the positive. That way these can only go on one way. You can see I have the opposites here. That way if these lights are ever removed, like if somebody has to pull this bumper off for if they care about having air conditioning for some reason, they can pull these off and not have to think about which way they go if they're not really sure or if they don't know a lot about lights and wiring and stuff. So that'll be good for somebody in the future. So I'm going to try to get get these mounted in the bumper and then get this mounted up and see if I can do that by myself without dropping it. Well, there it is for now. I'm actually pretty happy with the way it's come out. It's gonna be hanging a little bit low right now because there's no bolts in it, but overall I'm really happy. I did spray over the top of the hoop there because there was a spot I just wasn't gonna be able to get to when I had it laying on the ground, but once that dries I'll get it all bolted up and this front bumper project will be finished and we can move on to the rear. I'm pretty happy with the way this is coming out.